And of course, let's cross over to Francis Hurt. She's giving us the business chart of the day. A very good evening to you, Francis. Let's have a look at the prelude, or rather the back of the budget 2018.
Budget in brief.
Yeah.
Sure, let's give you a recap of basically what the Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba had to say today. He delivered what he called a tough but hopeful budget. South Africa, remember, is living beyond its means, with less money coming in than being spent, and a huge concern for authorities here and rating agencies as well is our debt burden. So Gigaba is saying government had no choice but to raise the tax on goods, or VAT. VAT has not been touched in 25 years because any increase could affect the poor, who spend a greater portion of their income on goods in the shops. But Gigaba says they will be protected through the continuance of zero rating, whereby food and other essential goods, some of those foodstuffs do attract no tax. Government plans to reduce spending overall over the next 3 years, but it says it will still focus on national priorities. And it has reallocated funds to deliver on former President Jacob Zuma's promise about the phasing in of fee-free education. Free education will be phased in this year. University and TVET college students will be fully funded as long as their annual family income is below 350,000 rand. So let's bring you some graphs and overview. In the main nutshell, VAT increases by 1% from 14% to 15%, which is possibly the most surprising part of this budget because a VAT increase would be so unpopular. Growth projections have risen to 1% and 1.5% for 2017 and 2018 respectively. Now that is better than last year's projections. That's good news, but growth is still slow. We're behind sub-Saharan Africa and the global average. The main reallocation of 57 billion will go towards that higher education. And then looking at debt, we're worried about that. So the deficit comes down to 3.6% this year, which is lower than projected last year. Now, the deficit, remember, reflects the fact that South Africa is spending more than it's earning, which means more debt. 3.6% is better, like I said, and it will help us to get those debt levels under control. And if we look at the overall debt to GDP, that has risen to 55.1%. So that's debt as a percentage of what comes out of the economy annually, all the goods and services. We're more than half, but it will stabilize in 2022 at around 56%. The debt to GDP ratio is what rating agencies look at, because if debt is too high, it doesn't bode well for our ability to repay loans. But those projections are somewhat better, leading to a good reaction to this budget on the markets. Let's look now at tax hikes. So the VAT increases from 14 to 15%. That raises nearly 23 billion rand for the coffers. This, plus adjustments to tax brackets generally, will bring in a total of 36 billion rand. The fuel levy also goes up. Higher income earners have not been hit like they were in the last budget, but the estate duty for estates worth more than 30 million rand does go up. Then every year we see these go up. Sin taxes, if you're a sinner, beware. If you're a beer drinker, you'll pay about 15 cents more for a bottle of beer. Let's see if we can bring that up for you. That's a 340 mils bottle. 23 cents more for a bottle of wine. 1 rand 22 more for a pack of cigarettes. Nearly 5 rand more, by the way, for a bottle of spirits, if you're into that. The total budget in terms of spending, and let's look at government priorities. Total budget 1.7 trillion rand, and spending will be reduced. So government's really trying to tighten its belt over the next 3 years to stabilize debt, a sign that government is committed to that belt tightening. The main priorities receiving the lion's share remain basic education, health and social grants. An additional allocation will go towards the national, not only higher education, we've touched on that, but the national health insurance, which means this project, which seems to have been stalled and stalled again, it's still on government's radar. Government's still committed to eventually leading to a full national health insurance. And then what we don't show you here is the old age grant from 1,600 Rand to 1,700 Rand. There will be increases in April and October. 2 increases also bring up the child support grant. That will increase to 410 Rand by October. And you saw there an additional allocation of about 6 billion Rand, including drought relief.